Okay, we're in week 3, and the focus this week is, even in the textbook readings, very much related to how you plan and what you plan for, and the different ways different centers and teachers approach planning. And planning is such a huge part of your work. I'm really glad that it's being addressed in great depth in this class this semester. It's one of my favorite things to work on myself as a teacher, and also to work with other teachers in planning. So start thinking about your own planning practices. And I think I mentioned last week that, developing your own lesson planning templates even. Are you going to use a journal? Are you going to use a pre-packaged one? There's lots of good ones out there. So you can start thinking about that if you haven't already. You may already have to keep a plan book for your work. So anyway, this chapter from another publication called Teacher as Planner is really very good. So please read it carefully. If you have to, read it one page or paragraph at a time. This emergent curriculum piece is one of the pieces that is most challenging for teachers to grasp and understand, because our tendency is to fall back on adult directed activities and not really be observers of children's emergent curriculum. So please do give this a lot of attention. And then you can see they've got a lot of practical examples, and then they look at the environment. So, looking at classroom environments is something you're doing this week for that classroom context assignment. So be sure to incorporate, if you choose to critique the exemplar and make it more early childhood friendly, you can really use these 2 articles this week to inform what you should be paying attention to in that. And here's a whole section about how to introduce something new. You're going to use these this semester in your lesson plan, and your next assignment is to create a topic, a unit of study. So pay close attention to this. I'm just scrolling through to make sure. So, literacy is something to consider, of course, in early childhood. So you can kind of look through that and look at how they communicate with parents. In this article, they talk about that. And then this idea of play, debrief, and replay. This is really, really good. Pay close attention to this process. And hopefully it's something that's already familiar to you, but if it's not, maybe even read this twice, or print it out and highlight it and make notes, because it's very, very good, really good stuff. And then you have, let me get this over here in the screen. So you have this second article to read, which is also fabulous. This is really good. So again, it's a very long article. You may want to take it in chunks. Looking through research and design and data collection is important, so that's good for you to see that. I like this, the challenge of finding a project topic, and how she goes into stepping back and letting the children's interests come through in terms of planning. And you notice she says stepping in or stepping back, the role of the teacher, how do you honor the children's ideas. It's just one good thing after another, and she has lots of good photos here, so I encourage you to look at those. She has interesting stuff for you about documentation. Really pay close attention to those, because that connects to what's on the walls in classrooms that you talked about last week. So please look at that. Look at how she uses photos and videos. She talks about that, and about how you support collaboration with children. So this, she's clearly involved in the Reggio Emilia approach, but this is also what we would call the project-based approach learning. So either way, it doesn't really matter what you call it. The idea is that you're working with what's called emergent curriculum. And this allows you to be inclusive in terms of who can participate. If the curriculum is emerging from the children, it's easier to make it inclusive. But remember also, when you're working with emergent curriculum, to make sure you're also representing the people and places that are not immediately present. So that, yes, the interests and joys of the children should be what your curriculum actually is. And it's important to provide children with opportunities to see and understand things that are not part of their immediate world. And I would argue right now that because of COVID, children really need this more than ever. They need to be allowed to develop the skills involved in project-based learning, where they're collaborating, allowing their own interests to emerge, and give them longer periods of play so that they can develop their ideas and build on them, and they have the time to do that. So I hope this is helpful. I'm going to go back to the, sorry about this, all this stuff on the screen. I want to go back to what you're doing this week for your assignments. So you have the articles, and do your reading reflection. And then I've given you a separate video about this classroom context assignment. I changed it a little bit. So be sure you watch that video so that you know what your choices are there. And then you do have textbook focused readings. They're focused readings. I would review them and just make sure there's nothing in the chapters. And then I'm going to add some videos. And if you would do in the closeout form, like you did last week, if you would reference something from the videos that I give you to look at in the closeout forms, just let me know if there's anything helpful in them, and if there is, what it is. Or also let me know if there's other kinds of examples of what we're talking about in the class that you would like to see. But this week's videos will just be examples of emergent curriculum with children, so hopefully they'll be helpful. And I'm trying to give you videos each week that you can add to your own collection of resources. So hopefully that's helpful too.